The wind whipped through the streets of New York City, scattering leaves across the pavement like forgotten stories. The buildings loomed, tall and golden in the morning sun, casting long shadows on the cold sidewalks. It was early November, and the chill wasn't just in the air. It had settled in people's bones. A man in his early 50s sat hunched over on a park bench. His name was David Walker, a veteran who'd lost his home. He'd been sleeping rough for months. People walked by without looking. Some turned away, others clutching their designer handbags tightly as they passed. But David had stopped noticing them long ago. The world had forgotten him. And so he had started forgetting himself too. Just a few blocks away, Jonathan Graves, CEO of a multi-million-dollar software company, sat in the back seat of his Tesla sipping on his $7 oat milk latte. He scrolled through his Instagram feed, pausing only to like a video of a man giving shoes to a homeless person in Los Angeles. Good content, he thought. What he didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that in a matter of hours, their paths were going to collide. And that moment would change both of their lives in a way no algorithm could predict. This is one of my favorite feel-good stories. Jonathan's Tesla stopped at a red light near Central Park South. The roads were lined with yellow cabs, bike messengers weaving through traffic, and tourists taking selfies by the horse-drawn carriages. He glanced at his watch. It was 8:17 a.m. He was early. "Pull over," Jonathan said to his driver. "Sir?" the driver asked, confused. Jonathan pointed to a small coffee shop across the street. "I want to walk the rest of the way. Fresh air." That was rare. Jonathan rarely walked anywhere, but something about that morning, the stillness, the light breeze, the fog over the skyline, made him want to breathe it in, even if just for a few minutes. As he stepped out, he noticed a child across the street, a small boy holding the hand of his mother. They were carrying 2 paper bags from a nearby soup kitchen. The boy tugged his mother's sleeve and pointed excitedly. "Mom, he's still there. The man with the army jacket." His mother looked down and shook her head. "I told you, honey. We already gave him our gloves last week. We don't have more to give, but maybe he's cold again," the boy whispered. The man he was pointing to, that was David. The same bench, same spot, same eyes looking into nowhere. The mother sighed. "Okay." But quickly, the boy walked up to David with hesitation and pulled off his red beanie and placed it gently on the bench beside him. David blinked, confused. "What's this, kid?" The boy smiled. "You can have it." "My ears aren't as cold as yours." David wanted to say something, anything, but the lump in his throat wouldn't let him. His hand trembled as he picked up the hat. "You gave me your only hat," he croaked. The boy nodded proudly. "You're a soldier, right? Soldiers are heroes. Heroes should have hats." At that moment, Jonathan stood frozen, just steps away. Having watched the entire interaction, he felt something he hadn't in years, a pang of guilt, followed by a spark of something else, something that tugged at his gut in a way quarterly prophets never had.
That night, Jonathan couldn't sleep. The face of that little boy haunted him. But more than that, David's eyes haunted him. There was something in them. Poured himself a glass of whiskey and sat by the window of his penthouse apartment. Below, the city sparkled like 1,000 opportunities. Above, the silence of his luxury condo made his heart feel hollow.
Avenue, watching people go by. They looked like they were in a rush to nowhere. For once, he wasn't one of them. "Listen," Jonathan finally said, "I don't know what I'm doing here, but you don't belong out here. People like you and me, we don't belong out here." David gave a dry chuckle. "Neither do pigeons, but you can't stop them from living where they land." "I'm serious," Jonathan said, his voice low. "I run a company, tech startups, innovation. But I've been thinking about doing something that actually matters. Something real. I don't want to just donate money anymore. I want to build something for people like you." David stared at him, skeptical. "People like me. I mean, people who've been ignored. People who've lived through real pain. Not just boardroom politics." There was a long silence. Finally, Jonathan extended a hand. "Come with me. We'll clean you up. Get you a bed, food, warmth. Then we'll talk about what's next." David narrowed his eyes. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Just help me build something honest. This is the most valuable business advice I've ever received." So this vet, David, he was homeless for 11 months, and he had a friend named Jonathan who, even though he didn't have much money, he wanted to help his friend. So he took him to a modest non-profit shelter on the west side. It wasn't much, but it was warm and clean and dry. And that night he slept on a mattress for the first time in 11 months. The silence wasn't from danger anymore. It was just peace. And the next morning, Jonathan was already waiting with a coffee and a laptop. He said, "I want to hear your ideas." And David laughed bitterly. He said, "You want business ideas from a homeless vet?" But he took the offer, and they spent hours talking about mental health, affordable housing, job, rejection letters, and systems that fail people when they need help most. Jonathan took notes, and then David told him, "Most guys out there, they don't want pity. They just want a chance. One chance. That's all they ask for." Weeks passed. David got new clothes. He got a haircut. He started therapy. And he began working at one of Jonathan's warehouses. He was managing logistics. He showed up early. He stayed late. He got respect. And Jonathan, he started something called Bench to Boardroom. It was a program aimed at rehiring homeless veterans. Not as charity, but as an investment in resilience. The pilot included 10 men. Then it expanded to 30. By spring, they had 120. David became the face of the program, speaking at schools, on podcasts, at veteran centers. He shared his story, not to gain sympathy, but to awaken compassion. This is a true story. Do you know someone who's gone through something similar? Share their story in the comments below. Let's help them find the support they need. 5 months later, David returned to the same bench on Fifth Avenue. He was wearing a crisp jacket and holding a warm coffee. A woman walked by and froze. "Wait a minute, weren't you the guy who..." He smiled. "Yeah, that was me." She looked shocked. He nodded. Life turns around when someone finally looks, instead of looking away. And across the street, the boy in the red beanie waved. He waved back. The boy walked over and sat down next to him. "Hey, what's your name?" "David." "Hi, David. Do you remember me?" "How could I forget? You were the one who gave me the money for the bench." "Yeah, I was just walking by and I saw you sitting here and I thought, hey, I know that song." The boy smiled. "Me too. 6 months ago, this was just a normal park bench in Manhattan. But today, things are different. 6 months ago, a group of homeless veterans sat here. They were unhoused, hopeless, and struggling to find work. But one man saw their struggle and decided to help. He started a nonprofit called Bench to Boardroom, and with the help of a few friends, they got these veterans off the street and into jobs. Today, this organization has helped over 100 veterans find work. They've even opened up their own office right here in the Big Apple. And the best part is, these veterans aren't just getting by. They're thriving. They're starting their own businesses and becoming leaders in their field. And it all started with one man's kindness. If we can all take a moment to appreciate those who serve us, our veterans, and also those who go out of their way to help others, then maybe, just maybe, we can all be a little bit better. That night, Jonathan hosted a gala for their nonprofit. A mix of suits, Donors, journalists, and influencers had gathered. The media had started paying attention, but Jonathan didn't care about the cameras anymore. He just wanted the work to grow. David was asked to speak. He stepped on stage, nervous but proud. "My name is David Walker. I used to be invisible." There was a hush. I was a soldier, then a husband, then homeless. That's how people saw me. Labels, numbers, an inconvenience on the sidewalk. Until one kid gave me his hat, and one man gave me his time. He looked toward Jonathan. "Today, I'm not invisible. I'm a leader. I'm a builder. I'm proof that the story doesn't have to end on a bench." The crowd rose to their feet. Some had tears in their eyes. Others just clapped harder than they had in years. This man sat on a bench in a major city every day for 22 years. He waited for someone to come and sit with him. And when they did, he would tell them, "You don't need to be a millionaire to make a difference. You just need to be willing." News of his mission spread across the U.S. within weeks. Other CEOs joined in. Cities like Chicago and Boston and Austin opened their own branches. David became a guest speaker at veteran hospitals, podcasts, even TEDx. But he kept going back to that same bench every Sunday. Sometimes he left a sandwich, sometimes a sweater, sometimes he just listened. And whenever someone asked why he still returned to that street corner, he would say, "Because someone will sit here again, and I'll be here when they do." There's a bench in a major city every day for 22 years. A man has sat on that bench. He waits for someone to come and sit with him. When they do, he tells them, "You don't need to be a millionaire to make a difference. You just need to be willing